Fear is one of the most powerful emotions that shape the way human beings live, think, and act. It is an ancient instinct, rooted deeply in our biology, designed to protect us from danger and ensure survival. But fear is not just a signal of immediate physical threats, it is also a psychological force that influences our choices, relationships, ambitions, and even our creativity. To understand fear is to understand a part of ourselves that is both protective and limiting, constructive and destructive, depending on how we respond to it. The psychology of fear explores not only what fear is, but why it exists, how it affects us, and how it can be transformed into something meaningful. Fear begins as a biological reaction, a built-in alarm system that has been with us since the earliest stages of evolution. When danger is detected, the brain activates the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure that processes threat. This sets off the body's fight-or-flight response. Adrenaline surges, heart rate increases, muscles tense, and senses sharpen. In a matter of seconds, the entire system prepares us either to run or to confront what threatens us. This primal system kept our ancestors alive when predators lurked in the dark, when storms could wipe out villages, and when survival was a daily struggle. Today, however, many of the threats we face are not physical lions in the bush, but psychological pressures, social fears, and inner anxieties. The ancient alarm bell still rings, but often it rings too loud, too often, and for situations that may not actually endanger our lives. At its core, fear is about uncertainty and vulnerability. We fear what we cannot predict and what we cannot control. A sudden noise in the dark, an unfamiliar face in a crowded street, the silence of a phone that refuses to ring, all of these ignite our imagination with possibilities of harm. Our brains are wired to prefer certainty, even if the truth is unpleasant. When certainty is absent, fear fills the gap. This is why humans often fear the unknown more than the known. The unknown can be anything: failure, rejection, death, or even success itself. Our imagination paints the unknown with worst-case scenarios, and in doing so, it strengthens the power of fear. But fear is not merely a signal of danger. It also shapes identity and behavior. People make choices based on fear every day, choosing a safe career instead of following a dream, staying in toxic relationships because the fear of being alone feels greater than the pain of staying hiding one's true self because of fear of rejection. Fear dictates the boundaries of comfort zones, and while comfort zones may feel safe, they are also prisons built by the mind. The psychology of fear reveals that the limits we often believe are external are actually internal constructed walls of worry, insecurity, and doubt. Fear also thrives on memory. A single traumatic experience can teach the brain to associate certain places, people, or events with danger. A child bitten by a dog may grow into an adult who fears dogs, even friendly ones. Someone who fails in business may hesitate for years to try again. The past, preserved in the emotional circuits of the brain, keeps replaying itself whenever a trigger appears. Yet this same memory system can be reshaped. Exposure therapy, for instance, works by gently reintroducing feared situations in controlled ways, teaching the brain that the old danger no longer exists. In this sense, fear is both stubborn and flexible, able to be reduced, retrained, and even conquered. Interestingly, fear is also addictive. People pay money to feel fear in haunted houses, horror movies, and extreme sports. This paradox shows that fear is not only something we run from, but also something we seek. When experienced in safe environments, fear becomes thrilling, a rush of adrenaline without real danger. It wakes us up, excites us, and makes us feel alive. This dual nature of fear, both unwanted and desired, proves that fear is not the enemy itself, but rather how we interpret and manage it. One of the most fascinating aspects of fear is its relationship with control. Those who feel powerless often feel more fear, while those who believe they can influence outcomes feel less. For example, a driver may feel less afraid of a car crash than a passenger, even though both face the same risk. The difference lies in perception of control. Fear, then, is as much about what we believe as it is about what is real. If we believe we can act, fear shrinks. If we believe we are helpless, fear expands. Fear is also contagious. Humans are social beings, and emotions spread through groups like wildfire. A single person panicking in a crowd can trigger a mass stampede. The fear of a few can become the fear of many, amplified by the social brain that mirrors the emotions of others. This is why fear is such a powerful tool in politics, media, and advertising. Leaders who understand the psychology of fear can manipulate populations, spreading narratives of danger to control behavior. Entire societies have been shaped, for better or worse, by collective fear. Yet fear is not only destructive. At times, it is deeply constructive. Fear can act as a compass, pointing us toward what matters most. We fear losing those we love because love is important. We fear failure because achievement matters. We fear death because life itself is precious. In this way, fear highlights values and priorities. If we learn to listen carefully, fear becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. It tells us what we cherish and what we must protect. Overcoming fear does not mean erasing it. To live without fear would not be courage but recklessness. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. When soldiers march into battle, when artists reveal their work, when individuals speak their truth despite criticism, fear is present, but so is the choice to move forward anyway. The psychology of fear teaches us that bravery is born not in eliminating fear, but in mastering the response to it. There are countless strategies humans have developed to cope with fear. Some avoid it, running from situations that trigger discomfort. Others numb it through distractions, addictions, or denial. Still others face it directly, training themselves to remain calm in storms, to breathe through panic, to reframe frightening thoughts into challenges instead of threats. Mindfulness, therapy, physical training, and spiritual practices all provide ways to reshape the relationship with fear. Each technique reminds us that while fear is natural, it does not have to be in control. But what happens when fear becomes too strong? Chronic fear can lead to anxiety disorders, phobias, and post-traumatic stress. In these states, the body lives as if danger is constant, even when no real threat exists. The nervous system becomes exhausted, health declines, and life feels smaller and darker. This is the shadow side of fear, the side that suffocates potential and traps individuals in cycles of avoidance. Addressing this requires not only medical help but also compassion, patience, and the recognition that fear is not weakness. Fear, when overwhelming, is a signal that healing is needed, not shame. From a broader perspective, fear is also cultural. Different societies teach different fears. Some cultures fear dishonor more than death. Others fear poverty, illness, or loss of community. Religious traditions often frame fear as awe, the reverence of something greater than oneself. In modern life, new fears emerge. The fear of missing out, the fear of irrelevance, the fear of not being enough in a world driven by comparison. These modern fears may not involve lions or storms, but they bite just as sharply at the human heart. To understand fear is also to recognize its role in human progress. Many of humanity's greatest achievements have come from confronting fear. Explorers sailing into unknown seas, scientists challenging dogma, activists standing against injustice. Without fear, there is no need for courage, and without courage, growth stalls. The psychology of fear reveals that fear and growth are intertwined, two sides of the same path. Every step into the unknown requires walking with fear at your side. Ultimately, Fear is a mirror. It reflects our vulnerabilities, our desires, and our limits. But like any mirror, it can be looked at directly or avoided. Those who dare to look into the mirror of fear often discover truths about themselves that lead to transformation. Fear says, "This matters to you." Fear says, "Here is where you must grow." Fear says, "Life is fragile, so live it fully." So the question is not how to eliminate fear, but how to dance with it. Fear will always be there, whispering doubts, raising alarms, reminding us of dangers seen and unseen. But if we learn to listen without obeying, to feel without freezing, and to act with awareness, fear transforms from an enemy into an ally. The psychology of fear teaches us not only what it means to be afraid, but what it means to be human. Because to fear is to care, and to care is to live. And so, as we reflect on fear, we are reminded that fear itself is not the end, but the beginning. Each time fear rises, it presents a choice: retreat or rise, shrink or grow, obey or transcend. The choice is ours. Fear will always be a companion, but whether it becomes a chain or a compass depends on how we hold it. In the end, fear is not there to stop us, it is there to sharpen us, to remind us of our strength, and to push us into the fullness of who we are meant to be.